Hi, I'm attorney Keith Johnson, and welcome back into the Lawyers Lounge. Today, I have a really special guest, a friend of mine, a homeboy, somebody that I have seen grow throughout the legal world over the past close to 10 years, and his name is Kevin Davis. You're going to meet him. You're going to understand a little bit about his background, his passion, and what brought him into the law. He's a fellow college athlete, just like I am, so we check a lot of boxes. We always have a lot of stuff to talk about. But he's on the other side. He's a prosecutor, and we've had some great battles throughout the years. And so we'll talk about that a little bit, but also go into what motivates him to try to seek change from his side of the aisle. So this is going to be an impactful episode. Sit back, relax with this version of the Lawyers Lounge with attorney Keith Johnson. Today we got my good friend Kevin Davis in the Lawyers Lounge. Man, do you know you are the first attorney to come into the Lawyers Lounge with me,
That's too big of an honor for me, man, but I appreciate it. I really do. I really do.
Yeah, man. It's great to have you in here. Definitely, I know a lot about you, but I want my audience to know about you and kind of who you are and what are some of the things that have lent to your success over the years. You're a younger fella than me, but definitely have a lot of accolades. So first of all, you're from Charlotte, North Carolina?
Yeah, born and raised in Charlotte. Have family here, so I always used to come for Thanksgiving, Christmas. So it's funny how life works in full circle way that I'm now living in Augusta, but dad's from here, and so his sister, my aunt, is here. Her kids are here. Then we've got extended family over in Beach Island. So
okay,
so man,
honorary Augustan, right?
Yeah, sort of. So but yeah, it's been a funny way that I got here. But yeah, from Charlotte originally.
Okay, and so you were a hooper too?
Yeah, man, I played basketball.
What position, man?
I was a point guard. I ran the point. Yeah, ran point, man, in high school. Ended up going to Presbyterian College.
Okay.
I actually got to play for one of your friends, Quentin Farrell.
Quentin Q, what's up, man?
Yeah, man. Coach Q was an assistant when I was there. And so it's great to see he's been there running the program. But yeah, man, basketball was and still is a big part of my identity. Yeah.
What kind of point guard were you? Were you like
definitely a pass first guy.
Pass first?
Pass first guy.
Okay.
And I think as we'll get into later, it shaped so much about my belief about teamwork, leadership, and not caring who gets the credit, but let's get the job done. So I could score it, but honestly, pass first was what made me feel like I was engaged. It didn't feel as comfortable if I was trying to get my own shot without having gotten other guys involved. But definitely was aggressive as well. But definitely was a pass first guy.
Okay, yeah, man. Tell me about your family. Are they still back in Charlotte?
Yeah. So both my parents are in Charlotte. My brothers, I have two younger brothers. One of them is in Charlotte. My youngest brother, he's about 29 now.
Okay.
And my middle brother, Zachary. So my youngest brother, Seth. Middle brother, Zachary, he's 32. He's actually in L.A., but is looking to come back. So
cool.
All my mom's side of the family's from Rock Hill, South Carolina. So all in that Charlotte metro, man.
Upstate,
I was the oldest of my three brothers.
I don't think I knew that. Rock Hill. So my mom's family is like from right down the street in Lancaster, South Carolina.
Oh yeah.
So
Lancaster,
absolutely. My maternal side is all Lancaster.
In the Lancaster,
yeah.
One of my
So
wife's best friends is in Lancaster. Yeah, we Highway 521.
How did we not know that?
Indian Land High School. I know all that. Yeah, I know all that, man. Yeah, that's great.
That's awesome, man. So when did you first get the law bug? And just I tell the story with myself. I was at Furman.
Mm-hmm.
I was in my third year, the beginning of my third year, when I really considered it for the first time after being in a government class. So I know at schools like we went to, you'll have some kids who grew up wanting to do it their whole lives and kind of work towards that. That wasn't my story. So what was yours?
Yeah, it wasn't mine either. I think the first time somebody said something like that, like he should be a lawyer or anything, I remember that was in third grade. I had a teacher named Miss Mabe who really was commenting more on how much I used to talk while she was talking or have an excuse for everything. Yeah. So it really was a criticism, but a compliment that hey, we might be able to channel some of this talkativeness and this energy into something positive, you know. So I still remember that, and that was, like I said, third grade. So I kind of kept it in the back of my mind as something that, you know, you just hear doctors, lawyers, and my father was a physician, and I kind of always knew that didn't feel like that was something I wanted to do.
What
And
kind of medicine?
internal medicine. Yeah,
Okay,
he
yeah.
practiced. He actually went to MCG. Like I said, he's from Augusta.
Yeah.
Went to South Carolina State. Glen Hills graduate,
South
class of
Carolina State. My
'78.
parents went to South Carolina
Man,
State.
that's crazy. They probably know it. So yeah, my dad was a Glen Hills graduate of '78. Then he went
Okay.
to South Carolina State. That's where my parents met. And then he came back here
crazy.
for medical school. Went to MCG, and then went to Charlotte. Like I said, at that time, my mom's family was still there, so they spent a little time in North Augusta. Actually, they lived over in Hammond Hills back in the day, and then they went. Yeah, then he went on to Charlotte. But yeah, so like I said, my dad practiced medicine, but I kind of knew that wasn't for me. I honestly, so kind of keeping it in the back of my mind, like, if, you know, okay, that's what I'll do. You know, my whole focus was on being the best athlete I could be, but I knew fairly early on, like, I'm not league material, right?
Yeah, sure.
You know, I'm a good player, but I'm not gonna be playing, you know, for anybody's even Euro teams, right? I kind of knew then. I was like, nah, it's like I said, it's time for me to start looking at what I want to do.
It's a hard road for basketball too, man.
It is.
Basketball is even harder than football because it's smaller teams.
Correct. And I knew then, you know, hey, it's a year-to-year thing, not a lot of stability, and so I started looking that way, even like around I'd say my freshman year in college. And I went to a smaller school, so I knew I'm not gonna have very many opportunities to get good film, even if I play and average crazy numbers. My film is different because I'm at a small school. And so, long story short, I started to think seriously about, okay, I'm really gonna do this law thing, probably in my freshman year of college. But I thought I would be just a sports agent or maybe get into administration, be an athletic director. I never thought you'd be like, no, man, never thought
a litigator, right?
No, I never thought that.
Because like that's the thing that I tell people something very similar is that I wanted to kind of get my law degree, go off in the office somewhere, chill, make some money. I ain't trying to be in front of nobody. I ain't trying to be doing all the pressure stuff that we do, and I guess our plans were not God's plans.
Exactly, man. And it's been so rewarding. I think that's the thing that I loved about the relationship we built, is that we have a lot of those similarities. But yeah, I always laugh or speak to younger groups about how you never know where your path's going to take you, because there was never a point in time where I ever thought that I would be involved in the criminal justice system. Just didn't think about it. Never thought about it.
Did you know any black attorneys growing up?
Didn't know one. That's
same, man. It was like ghosts. Like, who is that?
Yeah, didn't know an attorney. I learned, the funny thing is I started learning more of my friends' parents were attorneys, or friends' were attorneys, once I went to law school. But growing up, I never knew, because it was never on the front of my mind. You know, I didn't mention this, but as one can assume, my father being a physician, I was blessed to have a fairly upper middle class upbringing. So I didn't have a lot of wants or needs, and never really thought about what I was going to be for myself until high school, later high school. But like as a middle schooler, you know, I didn't want for anything. So I just kind of thought money, you know, grew on trees. Like, I don't have to worry about what my profession is going to be. I live good now. I'll live good in 20 years. And my parents were very intentional about letting me know that, no, that's not how it works. But I still kind of blew it off. Just focused on basketball, because I was like, once basketball stops, I'll just figure it out. But no, I never thought about, hey, I should go intern with my friend's dad, or you know, anything like that. Never thought about it.
So what do you think kind of drew you into public defense after you left Georgia? Because you went to UGA Law, which is a great law school. Obviously a great university, and they have deep ties within this state, right? So a lot of the attorneys and judges have gone to law school there, and Mercer and a couple other state schools. But, you know, being in Athens, what drew you back here, and then what drew you to public interest law versus kind of trying to do the big law thing that a lot of people do?
So I can remember the point at which I said I'm going to really try to be mindful about what I want to do, not what I feel like I have to do. And so, tying back into the athletics real briefly, because I was able to get a full ride scholarship, and my parents had been saving for my college education my whole life, they were like, hey, you want to do law school, we'll pay for that, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because they didn't pay for my undergrad. They had this money saved for my education. So because I didn't have any of the pressure of loans or needing to get out and make $200,000 a year, I was able to just sit back and say, what do I want to do? And so
Mm-hmm.
that's the search that I started to have as a 1L. And I still thought it was sports, but I quickly realized I was enamored with how do I really help people though? Because I realized more and more that I was intrigued by helping people with the
Yeah.
law. And I thought about it in terms of helping young men through sports. And that's why I wanted to do the sports thing. But the more I realized that that wasn't going to be the area to make the biggest impact on young
Yeah.
men, I saw that it was in the public defense space or really in the litigation space. Trayvon Martin was happening happened while I was in law school, and so there was just a lot more focus for me individually. It made me focus more on how do I want to use my law degree and what impacts me. And so public defense seemed to me like the area where I would get to be able to get into court most quickly, right? Because the big law, you're going to be a younger associate.
Yep.
So I selfishly wanted to have the chance to get into court and argue and advocate for my clients. But public defense jumped out to me because I realized the negative connotation around it, right?
Yeah.
People would say, "Oh, you got a public defender, they're gonna get railroaded, blah blah." And I just was like, "Well, why?" I started to be inquisitive. Why is that? And then I realized when you really peel it back, I'm like, no, these are the people that want to do the most for you. Yeah, I'm sure, and I've seen public defenders who were there because they couldn't get a job anywhere else. But the large
But that's not
majority
the
of the
vast
people,
majority of them.
And so when I came to the Augusta office, that was what I was able to meet people who are now doing great things in our bar: Cottrell Nash, Alexia Davis, Holly Chapman, Kim Wilder, Todd Mitchell. The list goes on of people that I met that I thought were great attorneys, good attorneys against private, public, whatever. And so that's why I stuck with public defense. But the internship was really for me just to see, is this true? Is it really that they're not doing the work that they say they want to do? And I was able to see that that's not true at all. That the public defender's office is where people are choosing to help the least of us. I still stand by that.
Yeah, man, I couldn't agree more. My first internship was at the public defender's office when I was at Furman, and I was able to really see, like, when people need a lawyer, they need a lawyer.
Yeah.
And the people that I was shadowing, because I was still in college at the time, had made a career out of it. And these were people who you could tell they really still had that passion to help people, just like you said, the least among us, who couldn't pay big attorney fees, but they were doing it because they felt like it was the right thing to do. And so it's really interesting that you were able to see that you were not necessarily, or you would not be able to help athletes in the same way. Because when athletes need an attorney to like represent them or to negotiate contracts, they've kind of made it.
Right. Exactly.
So it's not the same as maybe helping somebody find their passion, get on the right track after being in a tough spot, a tough situation. So do you believe that those years at the public defender's office gave you a different perspective because you grew up upper middle class, like you said, and there's definitely no shame in that. A lot of times I feel like the narrative around our stories have to be growing up in poverty or growing up without a father and then being saved and helped. But your story was a little bit different. So when you became a public defender, were you able to kind of see different aspects of how people navigate life?
I think for me, and again, I'm just being all the way honest, I think for me, I always looked at the criminal justice system as a younger person as I understand that Black and brown people don't get treated fairly, but it can't be as bad as it is because it's never directly happened to me. For a long time in my life, I think I was shielded from any direct negative impact with the criminal justice system. Racism, of course.
Yeah.
All of those things impacted me, but I never experienced it directly until middle school. There was a specific incident where it opened my eyes, but I still was able to suppress that as like, that was a isolated incident. It was when I was at the public defender's office that I realized because I didn't mention this, I still only thought I would go there like you hear in law school, get your trial experience and move on.
That's right.
I did not realize I would still be in public service at 10 years in my career until I got there, because I realized that the issues are so deeply rooted, right?
Mhm.
Like I never really confronted poverty as a like a root cause of crime and things. I never confronted that.
Mhm.
And I'm almost embarrassed to say that, because I felt like I was well educated. I felt like I was well in tune. My parents made sure that we understood a lot of the values and a lot of the privileges that we had were not given to everybody, you know. And I just felt like it wasn't until doing the public defender work where I got to sit with people and hear not just about what particularly you're charged with, but everything that led up to you being there, that I realized there's so much work to do, and I just felt God had called me to do it.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was when I first, and I always knew. Let me add to that. I always knew there's a very fine line, very little difference, and my parents always kept us very humble. Very, very small differences between me and the upper middle class upbringing I'm receiving and anybody that is not getting the privileges I
That's
have.
right.
I'm not any smarter. I'm not any better. You know, it could very well, but for the grace of God, that could be me. I always had that. So that's why public defense also drew me in, because I didn't like the idea that these people are not just as smart and not just as
Yeah.
worthy
There's a stigma.
as yeah, there's a stigma that because you can't afford a lawyer and because of these things, maybe there's something that's wrong with you. And I didn't like that.
Yeah.
So I connected with that as well.
You know, we have a little bit of a similarity, but it's opposite because I started as a prosecutor.
Right, right.
And my first, trials were, sorry guys, putting people in jail. That was what I was hired to do, and I did that for almost 5 years, man, from 2009 to 2014 ish, 13, 14. And then I switched and went to what people call the dark side. And I remember thinking when I left the DA's office that, man, I ain't taking no criminal cases.
Right.
I'm going to go do some real estate. And then I caught the bug. And your journey is a little bit reverse,
Right.
which is, you started as a public defender, like we just heard, and then you took a leadership role at the district attorney's office. What was the biggest surprise when you became a prosecutor? And I'll let you think about that for a second, because for me, the biggest adjustment as a prosecutor was when I would go to the barbershop. Sometimes some people would have this idea of what a prosecutor is and almost think that you are a sellout because you are prosecuting people or that you work hand in hand with the police. And I mean, that couldn't be anything further from the truth. Let me just say that, because we want diversity in all aspects of the law, including law enforcement, including the judges, including the attorneys on either side. And so that was an adjustment, because I felt like I was almost having to defend myself as being a prosecutor. And I was just like, man, I got a job, bro. It's 2009. The economy is trash. I'm not in my mama's house. So like, what do you think was the one of the major surprises when you became a prosecutor with that awesome authority and discretion that prosecutors have?
So I think the biggest surprise was how frequently somebody is a victim of crime one day, a defendant the next, a witness the day after that.
That's real.
It really started to connect for me that I always believed in treating everybody well, everybody fairly, because that's just the principles we learn. But I learned in that, I was surprised to learn how connected all of these different people are, or if they're not directly connected, they're a layer away, one degree of separation. I didn't realize that. I knew Augusta was a smaller community, but I did not realize, and I think this is probably something that could be applied to many jurisdictions, but it is so frequent that people are victims of crime, then also charged with crime or a witness to crime.
It's kind of complicated, right?
It's very complicated. It was one of the biggest surprises. And one of the reasons and you may have been preparing to ask that, one of the reasons I did feel comfortable switching, because I had that same, when I was looking at, well, I want to get involved with litigating, okay, prosecutor or defense. Well, I can't be putting black people in prison.
That's right.
Like,
That's
I mean,
right.
honestly, that was the stigma that you run into. You're like, nah, I can't do that. That's not helping.
Mm-hmm.
What I realized was that someone's gonna do it.
Somebody's gonna do it.
They're not gonna get rid of prosecutors.
Mm-hmm.
So someone with compassion and understanding needs to be the one to do it. Because as you mentioned, we all want safety. Nobody wants to live in a community where our children are at risk of being harmed, sexually assaulted, physically assaulted. No one wants to live in a community where our women aren't protected. And certainly we don't want to live in a community where people are victimized and truly randomly harming people, robbery, murder. No one wants that. We all can agree on that. I think that, as they say, the devil's in the details. How do we deal with all the other types of crime? Mm-hmm. How do we make sure that we are being fair and just in every way? And so I would definitely say that it wasn't just that I was ready to be a prosecutor, but it was I was ready to do it with the right team. And so Jared, again, Jared was a friend of mine. He was in the defense bar, and his decision to run and want to do it differently, and again, not getting any further into it than that, was the biggest blessing in my life, because I had a mindset about 2 or 3 years into being a public defender that I was like, man, I can't do as much as I want. Mm-hmm. You know this as a defense attorney, the system, right? Yeah. You're fighting every cog of the system from a defense attorney perspective. And that's why we need great people.
It's reactive too.
Yeah, it's reactive.
Like, I can only come to you, or I can only help you when you're in trouble.
Right.
And I can ask for them to reduce your case or dismiss it, but I don't have the authority to do it myself.
Right.
And so it definitely is a different way of advocating, depending on which side of the aisle you're on. Because I'll be honest, a lot of times people don't focus on the fact that a lot of the victims of violent crimes are African American too.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. So it's not like people are going across town to random neighborhoods and committing violent crimes. Usually it's within a few miles of where people live at. And so that's another aspect of it, as well as a prosecutor, that I don't think that people fully appreciate, or the media doesn't necessarily highlight those aspects of compassionate prosecution, because it doesn't necessarily fit into the narratives.
Right. But like what I was so impressed with about meeting somebody like you who has been a prosecutor is just, again, understanding that, like, multiple things, as we all say, both things can be true, right? We need public safety, but we need to be fair, we need to be just. And that has to also look at, we can't be perpetuating mass incarceration. Even though we've got to have prosecutors, we've got to be mindful of that. We can't be taking fathers out of the homes unnecessarily. We know what that does to our family units. And so just having somebody like you that I can talk with about that and has that perspective was always great as a young lawyer, but obviously even making the switch that I made and working at the DA's office now. And it's been rewarding. I will say that one of the reasons I was thinking I needed to switch as well is because there needed to be somebody who's actually represented people. When you're evaluating the case, you can't be looking at this and only seeing the four corners. Like we were talking before we got on air. Like, certain cases, you read the headline and it sounds crazy.
That's a great point.
But you've got to dig into it and understand there's more to it than that. And I think a lot of times, generally, prosecutors are people who are rule followers, and they've always been rule followers. And
we call them the hall monitors.
Right,
it's all good.
Right. They've always been that way, right? They've never really stepped out of line, or if they have, it was very minor.
Yeah,
you've got to have the perspective of, if you haven't yourself, which Lord knows I've made mistakes in my life, so I've got the perspective personally, but also I've represented people and heard what led to this or what led to that, more that meets the eye. There's more than that meets the eye, and there's more than what might be in those 10 to 20 pages of that investigative report.
Yeah.
You've got to be willing to dig and listen. And
I think it's that perspective that makes you a really good prosecutor, and really good, not just a prosecutor, but you are second at the office as the chief assistant. So people come to you when they have questions about how to handle a case or handle a witness or discuss something with the judge, because I think you understand that life is not always black and white. There's some shades of gray. And my defendant that I have this week could have been your victim last month.
Absolutely.
And that's the part of it that unfortunately we see in our community, but also nationwide. It's not just here in Georgia. It's nationwide. We have viewers from all over the country who are interested in criminal justice reform, but also advocacy. And, we always talk about what can we do to get these young people, especially our boys, because we got a passion for our boys, out of our system.
Absolutely.
And it's really a quagmire because the legal system is not proactive, just by its very nature, right? I defend somebody when there's something to defend. You prosecute or dismiss charges when it's appropriate. What has the past 5 years kind of shown you as far as how advocacy can go beyond the courtroom?
I think that's a great question. I think what I've been able to see and the most rewarding things for me have been when meeting with witnesses in these type of difficult cases, young black men who don't want to be confronted with the trauma again, right? We usually have to call witnesses in serious murder cases when they don't want to be found. We have to call them. And I often sit with those witnesses and I say, look, I know you don't want to be here. I don't want to put you through this. And I try to connect with them in a way that lets them know that I don't want to do this just to win my case, because I often say this to anybody that'll listen. When you're dealing with one young man has killed another young man, nobody's winning. There isn't a win here.
There's no win.
I tell them, I said, look, what we're trying to do is just get the truth out. And I'm not trying to ask you to win this case for me. I see a weight get just lifted off of them when they actually know I'm telling the truth, that I just need you to go in there and say the truth, and whatever that is. You're not here to win the case. You're not here to lose that case. That then allows me to have some more personal conversations, right? One young man was a manager at Hibbett Sports, and we had a really good talk just about what he wants to do with his life and raising his kids. Yeah. And so, I was able to take that conversation, like you said, beyond just the context of this case.
Yeah, just because life in general.
Just life in general. Yeah. Another time where it went beyond the courtroom was in a trial you and I had, and again, we won't have to get into specifics, but one of those witnesses, I ran into him at church that Sunday. Yeah. We finished that trial that week. I ran into him at church that Sunday. And then he actually came to the office to get some of the evidence back after the case. And I got to talk with him and have a good chat with him. And so, and I think, again, and I showed him the necessary courtesies and respect. And he didn't want to be there, right? He was actually very uncomfortable being there. But because I showed him the courtesy and respect, he and I had a good conversation just about our faith. And that was a great time where it went beyond. And then one more time it was involving you and I ran into one of your clients. We'd had a trial. He'd been acquitted and he moved on with his life. He was convicted of something, but fast forward. I ran into him he was standing behind me at Kroger. We were at the Starbucks at Kroger.
What about that, man?
And we had a great
realize
conversation.
That, man.
Yeah, we had a great conversation, very, very respectful. And we both said Happy Thanksgiving to each other. Yeah. So I try to look at ways that, again, this is how can I make sure I leave a positive impact on these witnesses, these victims, these defendants, whoever, that'll last far longer than this case, because the case will close, right? Whichever way it comes out, it'll close. But I hope what I share with them, I hope the way I treat them, whoever they are, defendant, victim, witness, I hope that's a way that I'm advocating for them and showing them that they have the ability to aspire to be a lawyer, a business owner, entrepreneur, whatever they want to do. I try to have those moments where I can do that.
And I've seen that. I mean, even when you were a public defender, what caught my eye was just the fact that you would advocate, but you had charisma and you were a people person. And I've seen that firsthand. And I know that people almost have a perception of attorneys, especially black attorneys. And when you let your guard down and show that you're human, I
Right.
feel like people let their guard down too.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, well, you don't think you better than me.
Right.
Or, you know, you don't always wear a tie. You know,
Right,
I tell
right.
people, man, I don't wake up in the morning with a tie on, my
Right,
guy.
right,
You know,
right, right.
and so I've seen you really show your personality and your character outside of the courtroom with people who I think look up to that, man.
Yeah, thank you.
You know, it's an emotional job,
Oh yeah.
and we're in a lawyer's lounge,
Oh,
and
yeah.
people don't usually hear attorneys talking about their job. They have this perception of us, man, and the emotional weight of it is something that we live with. And it took me now in year 17, like at least a decade to not take it home and not know that I was taking it home.
Right.
How do you know when you're getting a little bit overwhelmed with a case or with just the workload and like how do you kind of take a step back and just decompress?
That's a great question.
And maybe this might be evolving, man,
No,
because
it's a
it's
work
like
in progress.
you recently married.
Yeah.
Shout out Mrs. Davis.
Thank you.
Beautiful wife.
Yes.
You know, so your life is evolving as we speak. So like how do you leave the stress of other people's problems at the office as best you can?
Man, that's the core of it. And like I know that's one of the things you and I connect on is having those outlets. I do my best to still keep the perspective of like I've got to be the best husband I can be, one day the best father I can be before I'm trying to be the best lawyer I can be. And I don't always succeed in that.
Yeah.
What are the things that I do try to do? I try to, if I have to, I try to like just literally say a prayer that like, Lord, I'm not going to get everything done that I want to get done. Allow my mind to be at ease that I didn't, and whatever I didn't get done, I'll do it tomorrow. Because that's the biggest thing for me is I take it home not just because it's so heavy that we think about it, because that's one reason.
Yeah.
Sometimes I take it home because I'm like, man, I didn't get enough done.
You want to get it done, man.
And I owe it to this family, right? I owe it to the defense. I owe it to everybody in this case, because we know that sometimes cases languish for far too long. So I owe it to everybody to do these things. If there's something I need to follow up on, I need to do it. And so I try to, just literally have to say a little prayer that I just got to leave it here. And I'm struggling with it. I struggle with it often.
It's tough to do.
It's tough.
I tell folks being a lawyer is like always having homework.
Yeah, absolutely.
It ain't never over.
It's never over.
You can work all the time. You have to have all right, I'm going to try to get this done. Today I'm trying to get this done and have a stopping point.
Right.
Yeah.
And again, I think it's so hard for me to do, or at least it was when I was single. But again, now I'm happily married. And so now I know I have to. But before, it would be routine that I might stay till 9 at the office to get something done. And the way I would justify it to myself was, well, the Lord has created a space for me to do it. I can't do it in 10 years, but I need to do it now. And I don't think that was always right. But I felt like, okay, while I'm single, while I have the energy, I should pour everything into it. And when the time comes, I will, at least feel good about how hard I worked. And I started to realize that's probably not the best mindset either, because it's hard to switch it off. It's not like I can just stop being a workaholic. So I'm having to unlearn some of those bad habits. But it's a work in progress. It really is. But basketball is one of those things, like just having an outlet, coaching for you, and those outlets are really the way that it like forces me to leave it at home.
They are, man. So do you think that that being a trial attorney is something that that you get better at with
I think so.
repetition and age and experience?
I think so, man. It's like,
tell the viewers what it's like in your words to be a trial attorney.
Man, it's the most it's the most like
we the
exhilarating. Look, it's the most exhilarating thing that you sometimes you come out of it like, man, I don't want to do this again. But then you gear back up and you miss it when it's not happening. I think of it as very similar to the thrill you get out of sports, and I realize that it's much more serious, and so I don't want to make light of what's happening when we're at trial. But the need to be responsive to what's happening,
Yeah.
to pivot and make changes, and the strategy involved, and certainly the competition that's involved. All of that, excuse me, is very similar to what it was like being an athlete.
Yeah.
But yeah, trial is it's exhilarating, it's emotional, it's stress, everything.
It's stressful. Isn't it stressful, man?
It's so stressful.
And
man.
I try to explain this to people, but
so
it's
stressful.
hard to explain it.
It is.
So now I got another dog on the set.
Yeah.
We're gonna talk a little trial, man.
Yeah.
We're gonna talk a little trial because we went through the Behind the Bars series, and we talked about behind the criminal justice system, and we started from the anatomy of a crime all the way through first court appearance and the discovery process, and do I plea or not?
Right.
And then we had a 2-part show about the actual trial, and then what happens next. And so, as a trial lawyer, do you ever get in the car after it's over with and say, "Man, I wish I would have said that"?
Oh yeah,
because I do that all the time.
Oh yeah, all the time, man.
Yeah.
You know, one of the things I try to do with a trial is I try to, going in, I try to know if I'm successful, it'll be because of these facts or these things. If I'm unsuccessful, it'll be because of these facts and these things, so that I can make sure that I don't beat myself up and just try to keep the main thing when I'm presenting. But every time I tell every victim's family or anything, I say, look, I think I'm pretty good, but I'm gonna forget some stuff. I want y'all to take notes. I want y'all to give me pointers that you are seeing throughout the trial so that I don't miss it. But inevitably you miss things. Inevitably you think about, should I have done this or should I have done that? I think for me, the reason that I usually have the most comfort and I don't usually have too much beating up of myself about choices is because I try to do that on the front end. I try to say, okay, if I make this choice, what's the risk? And if I'm comfortable with that risk, then I can hold my head high and I can be okay.
You can live with it.
I can live with it.
Like they say, like you left it all on the field.
Exactly.
Or on the court.
Exactly. It's like I was talking with my brother-in-law last night. It's like, look, if the Lakers decide they want to let Shea beat him, or they're going to make somebody else beat him rather, and then they do, at least you can live with it. That was our strategy. We executed our strategy. So I try to make sure that as I'm prepping, that's what I do. I try to make sure, hey, here's the strategy I want to go forward
with. That's so funny, man. That's that sports.
It's what it is, bro.
I look at it like the same way, man.
It's what it
crazy.
is.
I look at it like it's a game plan.
Exactly.
That's the playbook. Like when you all send me that discovery, like that's the playbook.
Right.
So I've used this before, but you know, if I know on third down they really like that deep ball to the number 2, then I know that these are certain routes that I'm going to be mindful of.
Right.
And then if I know that lead investigator, he don't really read his file.
Right.
Or he likes to kind of get up there and put on a show, I'm going to walk him into it, you know. But it's the strategy part that comes with not just playing sports, but playing it at a higher level where it's not just about who can jump the highest, but now you got to know how to defend a pick and roll.
Correct.
And just out there playing on the playground.
Right.
And I think that we've been able to take that skill set and transfer it to a professional endeavor.
Right.
And so do you find that you get along with athletes a little bit easier than non-athletes?
I think so. I think I get along athletes and I've noticed military people, because what I've noticed with us as athletes is we can have tough knockdown, drag out battles. Locker rooms are a crazy place. But if everybody's pulling in the same direction, or at least everybody knows that they want the same goal, even if you're not pulling in the same direction, you can recover from that, right? Yeah. If everyone knows what the goal is and we're trying to win or do the best job we can, whatever your goal is, then I can have a moment where I had to, get into it with somebody, or we had a disagreement that got a little heated or escalated, because we know that it's coming from the right place.
Yeah. We've had disagreements, but it's like it's okay.
Right, it's okay. I've noticed that I can deal with, and I think the other thing is what I've noticed, and this is not just related to trial or the work we do, but with attorneys in general. I think there's an air of, because you have a JD, you have some sophistication, whereas I think like Like I know every year you came into summer ball, there was a new crop of players
you
that
better
are
earn
trying
it.
to compete for your spot.
You better
And
earn it, bro.
and yeah, there's politics in sports teams. Of course there are, but a lot of programs are just straight up
Straight
merit
up.
based.
Straight up.
Are you playing well?
Are you playing well?
And if you're playing well, you're gonna play.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter what stars you were rated in high school. Don't matter whose highlight tape looks better. Yeah, that might get you more reps initially. But if this guy's out playing this guy,
You're gonna sit down.
you're
Bro.
gonna sit down.
You're gonna sit down.
And so you're
And you
able
can't
to
blame anybody else.
you can't
but
blame
yourself.
anybody else.
Yeah.
I think that level
that accountability
that
too.
accountability is lacking sometimes. Attorneys feel like, well, just because I'm an attorney, you know, at least as a leader, so I'm transitioning to as a chief assistant. A lot of times, it's easier for me to communicate with people who have those backgrounds because I feel like those people are able to understand constructive criticism and want it, and are able to take it.
That's it.
And that's not just in our office. That's just been in my experience across attorneys, right?
Because you have to know how to take a critique.
Yeah.
It ain't personal. If you're not making eye contact with the jury,
Right.
you might not even thought about that, bro.
Correct.
I know it's a million things in your head, and you just trying to get this out.
Right.
But next time, you will be mindful of, I need to make sure that I'm looking up and having a conversation.
Right.
But if you've never really had a situation where you've been critiqued before, I think people can take that kind of stuff personally.
Yeah.
But you never grow and you never evolve if you don't try to push the envelope forward.
Yeah, you got to be able to, again, sports analogy, watch the film, right? Like the film's not going to lie, right?
Lie.
You've got to be able to take that kind of criticism. The film won't lie. You might think you're doing this, but the film says one thing. So, so that's definitely one of those things that I've noticed with athletes, and military is another area where they're very mission driven.
Yeah,
they're very mission driven, and so those folks I've noticed I do work well with. One of the things with strategy with trial that I really commend you for is, and the sports analogy is being able to win many different ways, right? You can win a game that's a shootout, or you can win a defensive struggle, or a blowout, or whatever the case may be. Man, in trying cases with you, I've always told people, I said, man, specifically the one we did last year, I said, man.
Which one, Figueroa?
That was Figueroa. We had so many things that got thrown at you. There were so many differences that popped up in the week. And one of the things that I said, I was like, man, he's got the right feel for each kind of a case, because we've tried so many different kinds.
Yeah, we have.
And I think that's the mark of a true good trial lawyer. Some people are going to come in with one style. They're going to just, this is a lie. This is the worst case there ever was. This was blah, 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 blah. And that's all they got. And it can work for them, right? It's authentic to them, but that's all they got for every case. So it's not going to work in every case.
It's like a 3-point shooter. Make them put the ball on the ground.
Right.
Make them dribble it.
Can you score at every level? Can y'all run the ball and go to the air? And that's one of the things I truly, not just because I'm on your platform, but I was telling other attorneys because they were asking how the trial's going. I said, man, look, one of the things that I've learned about Keithan this week is he can get it done any way that it has to go. Because that case through stuff that I'd never seen.
Listen,
stuff that you may never seen.
We had a defendant that we all right. So just some context. It was a murder case. My client was found guilty of a lesser charge of aggravated assault. That was a win for us. Obviously, that was a win for Kevin as well, and the prosecution. And I hate to say wins, but he was held accountable, and I think he was held accountable fairly. Okay, but it was a case where we started out with a co-defendant. So in the middle of the trial, is no co-defendant anymore. The co-defendant has pled guilty. And so I'm like, wait, what you mean you pleading guilty? You can't just leave us over here.
Yeah.
So I told the attorney, man, I'm like, man, what you doing? He's like, I gotta go. We'll see you later. I'm like, man, this boy about to get life sentence. Yeah, so like it was a different way. Like
he'd been in the strategy discussions with you. So I had never dealt with that. You had never dealt with that. It's things like that you handle gracefully, with composure, and again, just even in the correct ways of what to object to, when to object. Because there's attorneys, again, you see it on TV and you think it has to be a battle about everything, but the jury's watching, right? I tell younger lawyers that the jury's watching.
They're watching
how you treat co-counsel, what you're objecting to, why you're objecting. And so you just had a phenomenal way about taking all that in and doing the like I said, doing the best that you could with all these weird things being thrown at you. And I think that's what led to the outcome that did not get your client convicted of any murder count.
Yeah.
And I think that was something that I can honestly say a lesser attorney navigating all of those issues.
That was one of the hardest trials.
Yeah, some of the hardest facts.
Yeah.
Because there was a significant age difference, and there was just so many things that were at play, moving parts in that case that I thought you handled phenomenally. That I have tried enough cases with you to see that was a new side of you and the way that you had to deal with that, and you did it well. And I was able to.
Well, I appreciate that, man.
That's what makes him one of the best. Is he can adapt and get it done multiple ways. It's not just a one trick pony, so to speak, of style. He was able. He had to do so many different things. Had to.
I was stressing
to do well, and I often say that. I say, man, look, I don't always believe it's the lawyers. Sometimes it's the facts. But it was a case like that truly highlighted the importance of advocacy, because I think a lesser lawyer would not have been able to navigate all of that. And that's the truth. That's not me lip servicing because I'm on this platform. That really highlights the point we're trying to make about strategy. And I think that's important when picking lawyers. Let me be very clear. I always, when folks even ask me now as a prosecutor, who would you recommend? There's only a handful of names because certain cases need somebody who's willing to approach it with how do we get the best plea, how do we get the best outcome.
Yeah, that's
certain people know how to just bulldoze and we're gonna have a trial by all means. Certain people know how to make the correct sentence recommendation to the judge. Right, we can't always ask for you to go straight home.
You can't always. Sometimes you're gonna have to sit down for a second.
Right, and I've seen you demonstrate every bit of that in the litigation process, and that's what makes.
That's why I wanted you to come work with me, man. Like,
right? But that's what makes a well-rounded defense attorney. And because I hate when I see people that like, man, there's a deal in this case that can get you home pretty soon, but
they don't look at it.
Your attorney's going at it the wrong way, or your attorney done halfway. I don't have a problem, but they halfway pissed the judge off, and it's going to send your sentencing left.
That's it. That's it.
So you really have what I would consider to be the correct total package for if we're going to trial. I'm ready to roll my sleeves up, battle it every step of the way.
Yeah.
But if there's a resolution to get you back to your family sooner, let's do that.
Let's try to find
that's
that
what
piece.
It takes.
Well, I will say this. Kevin is very humble because he's a great attorney as well. I've lost one trial since 2016 in Richmond County. Richmond County. I done went and got home cooked, but in Richmond County, and it was to Kevin Davis, and that was in 2023, and it was
But it wasn't me.
Like I said, no. It was a case. Yeah, he got me. He tried a great case against me and another seasoned attorney, and it was a case where a few witnesses didn't show up. And it still didn't matter. And so he's a great attorney and handled the case with the amount of finesse that was needed in that kind of case. Because you don't need to oversell a case when there's a video. But also you have to be able to navigate the things that you did. And so that's what I've always admired. And I hope that you continue trial work and hopefully one day you'll be making rulings on those motions. That's what I want. That's what I appreciate
that, brother. I really do, man. I will.
Let me ask you this, man. What is your favorite part of a jury trial? Think about it. All right. So I'm gonna go first.
Okay.
So I would say probably closing argument. Now, I do enjoy a good cross-examination, but there are some witnesses who you're not going to get much out of, right? So it's really just about trying to score like little points because they ain't never going to agree with you, right? Like we saw that. Well, I saw that Stephon Diggs trial that they just had, and at the time of the taping, that was this past week, and Stephon Diggs plays in the NFL. He's a free agent now, and he was recently acquitted for an assault case involving a former chef slash paramour. But like she was on the witness stand on cross-examination, and she didn't do too well.
Right.
She wasn't prepared for what they were going to ask her. So like, there's always like a little bit of a gotcha moment if you could have that. But for me, closing argument is when you bring everything in.
Yeah.
And you could just kind of give your assessment of the case, and then you sit down.
Yeah.
What about you?
Man, There's so many because I love trial. I don't have the patience that I should for jury selection, but I really enjoy that moment. That moment. Okay, it's starting. It's really here. It's like
here.
the moment before the tip off. You know, that point is really fun for connecting with the people, even the people that don't make it on the jury.
Yeah.
I always enjoy because, like I said, I am a people person, so I always enjoy the answers and the process. But I don't have enough patience, so like I like that part for about as long as I can last, and then I got to go. But then my next favorite part certainly would be closing. And I even like opening. Anytime that I get to communicate directly to the jury, because one of the things I try to pride myself on that I think there's prosecutorial philosophy that says you shouldn't do these things, but I try to pride myself on my honesty with the jury, even when it doesn't hurt. I mean, even when it doesn't help my case, even to the detriment of my case. And people say, yeah, you certainly don't want to lose credibility. That's a 101 of trial work or prosecutor work. Is certainly don't hide the ball or that. But sometimes people have a tendency to, well, if they're not going to help your case, don't call them as a witness. I sometimes think that's okay in certain situations, but I want to be the most credible person for them, even if they're not going to find the verdict that I want them to. I want them to know what he told me exactly why.
These are the facts.
Right, these are the facts.
That's what happened.
And he told me in opening, if I'm going to acquit this person, it's going to be because of this. And he's right. I am going to vote to acquit because of those things he told me. Or I'm going to vote to convict because of what he told me. I want to have that credibility. So I really enjoy, again, I love it all, but if I had to say, I'm going to rank it because I gave too many answers. I'm going to say I like the jury selection.
You're such a lawyer.
Yeah, right. I love the jury selection for that exhilaration of like, oh, my friend's mama is on this panel. Like, even if she can't be on the jury, it's just nice to see who all from the community is there and get to see what Augusta looks like, because it really is a good cross-section. So I love that first few moments where you get to bring them in and see who's there and have those initial questions with them. But if I had to say, I would say the openings, because that's my chance to say, look, here's what this case is about. Here's why you should decide the way I believe you should decide it. It comes down to this issue. If you don't believe these things, then your vote has to be not guilty. Right? I take that seriously, that I'm not just there to win. I'm there to truly be an administrator of justice in whatever way that is. And I often tell juries, like I said, their verdict needs to be the truth in whatever way that is. Whether I disagree or not, I'm going to respect it and so I really appreciate being able to speak to them first as the prosecution and just set the stage for what I think this trial is going to be, good, bad, or otherwise. I try to be honest with them.
I got a few questions that I want to kind of get through. So this will be like little rapid fire questions. All right, man. So whatever the first thing that comes to your mind, I know you can handle this. We got like a lawyer in here, so I know you're good. All right. So what is a common misconception about prosecutors that you wish that people knew about?
Lock everybody up.
That's when lock everybody up.
I think that's a common misconception. A lot of the people in the office that we have, the culture we've cultivated, is people want to do what's right. People get just as much joy out of realizing, hey, this victim isn't telling the whole story. And we need to get to the bottom of that. I think that they're not telling us the truth. Let's get this case dismissed.
And I think that starts at the top.
Too. It starts.
That starts at a culture of transparency and a culture of just wanting to know that it's not just about racking up wins.
Right.
That we're dealing with people. Absolutely. And I can say that Jared, who was a defense attorney before he was the district attorney, I think that he fosters that vision for the office, and so I definitely agree with that, because it's not always like that, and it's not like that everywhere. What's a common misconception that people have about defense attorneys?
They slimy and want to technicalities and
dark side.
Yeah, they want to get technicalities, man. I cannot speak for every defense attorney, but I know that the large majority of the ones who do the trial work. Now, there's some out there that might wind up in a trial, but true trial lawyers like yourself, and there's others I can name. But again, people want everyone wants justice, everyone wants fairness, but that Constitution means something. And so it's on the defense attorney. It's a constitutional responsibility to push the state's evidence, to force us to prove our case. And so they're doing their constitutional responsibility.
Yeah.
It's not them trying to be slimy or whatever it might be, or the perception. No, it's them doing exactly. Oftentimes when I tell families, and I know it's supposed to be rapid fire, but when I tell families, I'm like,
that's cool.
if you were sitting on that side of that room and that table, you would want Keith or whoever the defense attorney that they're complaining about to do the same thing.
Man.
Whatever you would want them to do the same
I'm
thing.
a fence around you,
right?
boy.
Yeah, you would want the same vigorous representation,
and you would want the same vigorous prosecution.
Correct.
If your loved one was gunned down or your baby girl didn't come home at night and you see that guy across the table, you want every aspect of the law to be used to punish him for what he's done to your loved one. And so it takes maturity to be able to see that, but it's also so much emotion involved that we almost have to try to regulate the emotion of with me, it's the family of my client and
Same
my client
here,
and the victim. And so
very much so.
A lot of times, Kev, like we are in the middle.
Yeah.
I mean, how many times have we picked up the phone and said, man, listen, can you work with me on this? Man, all right, this is what I got. Man. This is what I got, man.
Exactly.
What can we do?
Exactly.
You know,
and trying to get to that right outcome. But yeah, it's times where, and it's also refreshing when we have families that understand that, right? That understand he's doing his job and the system's gonna work the way that it's supposed to work. So yeah, it's refreshing, but oftentimes that's a misconception we get. It's that he's trying to get him to do this or to get him to lie. It's like, no, it's literally the job, and it's needed. It's needed that people are presumed innocent. I think you have to really take that serious.
Yeah, and I know that you do take that seriously. So how long have you been practicing law?
It'll be 10 years in October.
Whoa.
10 years in October, man. That's
10?
crazy.
I remember you got here.
I know. It'll be 10 in October. That's crazy.
That's awesome, man.
Thank you, bro. Thank you.
That's awesome. You're going a lot of places, man.
Man, I
and
appreciate
you got
it.
everything that it takes, man. I wanted to hire you, man. But then things, you know. But if we fast forward 30 years from now, right? You you know, in your mid to late 60s. What would you want people to say about the kind of attorney that you were and how you made them feel?
Right. Man, fair. I think that's obviously an easy one. Fair. He just did what's right.
Mm-hmm.
Even when it wasn't easy or expedient, he just did the right thing.
Mm-hmm. Because when you try to do the right thing, I always tell people it doesn't matter who later becomes a judge.
Right.
It doesn't matter who gets that appointment, because they know and you know that you did the best with what you had in front of you at the moment.
Right.
Because sometimes things make sense a little bit in hindsight, but I think that the measure of it is doing what's right in the moment. I just want to give you this opportunity to tell the viewers and the listeners a little bit about your own philosophy and what you want them to keep in mind, because I believe that people are going to hear your name going forward.
Man, I appreciate that.
And I think very highly of you. And this is after a lot of battles that we've had, guys. Okay, so like that should tell you how good of a guy he is. Kevin and I have probably tried 4 cases, 4 or 5 cases. You know, and like these ain't little cases, okay?
We're talking
so,
murders,
murders,
ag
assaults. We've had the ag assault on the police officer, one that we just talked about.
Exactly.
We've had some trafficking cases.
Yeah.
And so what people don't understand and realize is that as a lawyer, sometimes you try cases against your friends.
Absolutely.
And that can be very difficult because it's easier. It's human nature to want to get riled up and like, that's the enemy.
Right.
But it's really tough when it really ain't the enemy.
Right.
You know, he just has a job to do. And so what would you like to kind of end on?
I think the thing I want to leave with the viewers is this work, as we talked about, takes a lot out of you. And it takes somebody who's willing to do the right thing even when it's not easy, when it might be easier to cut corners, to do what's right, and to do it fairly, particularly as a prosecutor, it's important that you're not looking out for just the interests of the victim. You're looking out for the interests of everyone. I tell people that all the time, that the state versus whoever truly means that it's supposed to be us taking into consideration the interest of everybody, the defendant, the defendant's family, the citizens of that county you represent, and what they want, the ideals, and what they want their public safety or law enforcement to be doing. And it's not you who should be driving that. It's being responsive to that community, and that's something that I strive for, and that, working with Jared, we strive for that every day that we're looking at a case, and we're trying to do the right thing by everyone involved to make a better Richmond County, Georgia for everyone. That's what I would like to leave people with.
Absolutely. So, you've heard from someone who has the experience, the heart, and the overall spirit to be a leader, to be an advocate, and to be someone who can be an example for our youth. It's so simple and easy to put people into boxes because they are a prosecutor or because they are a defense attorney. But what makes a good lawyer, like Abraham Lincoln said, is that he could take both sides of the issue. And that's what you have to do in order to do this job at a high level. And Kevin is someone who I've seen in the trenches and I've seen around family, and he is the same. He is a consistent young man, and he's the kind of person that I would trust if I was a victim of a crime, that I would trust if I was in need of a defense attorney. And so as we look at the justice system from all different sides, we have to keep in mind that everybody takes their life experiences and they bring them with them into this forum where we're trying to help people. That's why we need a diversity of life experiences, a diversity of people, so that we can always try to get the best outcome as we go forward. As always, don't look to the past. It is behind you. There's nothing you can do about what happened yesterday. If you must look back, let it be informative. Let it show you what God has done for you and the mighty strength that he has to keep you in his hands. The future, it belongs to the good Lord. You are in his hands. You are not tasked to worry about what you can't see. It's just a thought of emotion and anxiety. Stay in the present. That's where the gift is. That's where the magic happens. And that's what we have to do to become the best versions of ourselves to make this place a better world. Until next time, salute.